At the last Planning Commission meeting, there was a motion to take out two areas, one along Old Torf and one along Ben White.
That's where I'm focusing on. That. What happened at the last Planning Commission meeting that suddenly brought this before us?
About 1:30 in the morning, Wednesday morning.
When all mischief really happens, right?
Well, one of the planning commissioners made a motion to take those two areas out.
But in what context? Was there a zoning case before them, or what?
No.
Yeah, I mean, like, was it posted to do a FLUM, or what? I mean,
we were posted to adopt a future land, to amend the Dawson neighborhood plan by adopting a future land use map.
And so why had that? What prompted us to get to that moment? Was there just, like through the normal course of events, a determination that there was not a future land use map for Dawson?
Just as a way to add more direction, more clarity to the plan.
And Mark, I heard something a little bit different from what you and Councilmember Leffingwell discussed. So my understanding then is, if there's a like a request for a zoning change that is contrary to the neighborhood plan, that requires, I think, 6 votes, right? Or is that? Only
if there's a valid petition. Okay. It would require 4 votes if there was no valid petition.
But then what about if it does not comply? So what is the effect of the FLUM then? I mean, how does that change anything?
It actually can clear up any ambiguous language. It gives more clear direction as to the intent in the future, what people would like to see. Words can be somewhat ambiguous and can be interpreted by different people in different ways. But when you have a map with these distinct directions on it, it eliminates that ambiguity and provides clarity to both people interested to doing business development in the neighborhood, and gives the neighborhood a clear vision of what they say, this is how we want to see our neighborhood develop.
In my, I mean, just from what I've heard this evening is, whatever may be good planning principles, the neighborhood is opposed to the changes on Ben White and on Old Torf. Is that or have you heard a mix? Or I mean, tonight we saw a fairly, not unanimous, but fairly solid opposition to changes in the neighborhood plan. Is that reflective of what's come out of the neighborhood planning team, for instance?
No, that was from the neighborhood planning team. They voted to adopt the map that reflects the zoning that occurred back in 2001. And my understanding, you heard the same testimony as I, they would like, not necessarily objecting to anything change occurring along Ben White, but they would like to see it go through a process as opposed to being sprung on them very early in the morning.
Councilmember Dunkerley. Sorry, Mayor Pro Tem Dunkerley.
Mark, go back to the, I'm still unclear how this got to the Planning Commission in the first place. Was the staff, did the staff just notice that there was no FLUM for this area and you put it on the Planning Commission, and if you did, I would have assumed that you would put on Plan B. Is that
Correct.
What happened?
There was not one, and that's Plan B reflects the staff recommendation.
So that's what you brought forward?
That's what we brought forward to the Planning Commission for their consideration.
And then when the Planning Commission looked at it, I assume they thought, well, this area along Ben White, from a future planning perspective, probably, in their opinion, should have reflected a mixed-use kind of category. And so they were going to say, let's let the... Did they suggest that, and then they pulled it out and just left it blank and asked them to go back to the neighborhood, or how did that happen?
They would say take out those areas and then go to the neighborhood and notify the neighborhood associations and those individuals or property owners or houses or sites within 300 feet of this area and invite them to a public meeting to discuss these areas.
Rather than going back to the neighborhood team?
Yes, I assume so. Though the neighborhood planning team would be, of course, invited to any type of event were it to be held.
Okay, thanks.
Further questions, comments? Councilmember Craig.
Obviously, as you're guessing, this is a very unusual situation for the council to deal with, and we're trying to figure out how in the world this happened. Is this unusual? Because I haven't seen something like this happen before.
There are 3 current plans that don't have this future land use map within them. This would be Dawson, Hyde Park, and Old West Austin. And recently there has been several zoning cases, specifically in Old West Austin, that pointed to the need that we might need to consider going back and examining that. The same thing happened in Dawson. We had a zoning case move forward that highlighted the need for more clarity in specifying land use decisions. And that's the reason we brought this map forward.
Councilmember, just Mr. Walters came to the law department and asked what we thought the best thing would be to do since they did not have a FLUM, and we sent it back to the neighborhood and said, do what you think is right. And so I don't know what happened at the Planning Commission at 1:30 in the morning, but you know, that's the explanation is they didn't have a FLUM and they felt like they needed one in order to go forward.
My last question then is, so the staff recommendation is Plan B?
That's correct.
And then that's the one that's also supported by the neighborhood planning team?
Yes.
Okay.
And again, Plan B reflects the staff recommendations at the zoning case that occurred back in 2001.
Thanks.
I'll gladly consider that a motion. Councilman.
Yeah, I will say that, I mean, I think that there is a good planning case to be made for, particularly for the Ben White properties that you would have a commercial as opposed to single family. That said, I don't like the process that got us here, and we do have an established process for doing amendments to neighborhood plans. So what I'll do is I will move to approve MAP B, staff recommendation supported by the neighborhood planning team.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember McCracken, seconded by Councilmember Cole to close the public hearing and approve MAP B option for the future land use map. Further comments? Councilmember Leffingwell.
Yeah, as I said before, and I just want to reiterate one time, this does not preclude zoning changes. And zoning changes usually go hand in hand with changes to the FLUM that come in the future. I agree that good land use planning in the future might dictate that, but I think the best course of action for us right now is to let the FLUM conform to the existing zoning and wait for the need to arise to make changes in that. So I'll support the motion.
Thank you. Further comments? Have a motion, a second on the table. Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes on a vote of 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.